Hey, what's up? How's it going? It's Rob and welcome to Live Curious. Let's talk about bears. Specifically, I want to talk about the brown bear in Britain. You know, what would happen if it was released to the country tomorrow? What happens when people and bears cross over? And fundamentally, how far off are we from seeing the bear in Britain? The Eurasian brown bear, much like its name, has a dense brown fur coat, and when standing, the biggest top out at around 2.8 meters. That's just over 9 foot. Fully grown males weigh around 300 kilograms and females are a little less. A formidable creature that has an incredibly powerful jaw, measuring in at 975 psi, which could easily crack a bowling ball. It has large paws with claws that can grow up to 10 centimeters in length. Although equipped with these lethal physical attributes, brown bears are in fact omnivores, and their diets vary with the seasons. From mushrooms or apples to insects and deers, they eat whatever is most abundant within their environment, consuming near 60,000 calories a day coming up to the colder winter months. Leading a largely solitary life, they do sometimes congregate in numbers at important food sources. Cubs will stay with their mother for the first 4 to 6 years of their life, and naturally, mothers are very defensive over their cubs. And from deserts to deep forests, the bear can survive in a range of habitats. However, within Europe, it's mostly found within the mountain ranges and old-growth forests. Depending upon suitability of habitat and availability of food, the brown bear's home range can vary between 80 to 600 kilometers squared. It's definitely an intelligent and inquisitive animal that has a huge impact on its environment. And this impact is largely all down to what it eats and how it eats. So, a little bit like myself, they aren't fussy and they'll eat a very broad diet ranging from fungi to roots to berries to insects, and when they're successful, they'll even take the occasional large herbivore such as a deer. This effect that the bear will have upon deer populations or large herbivores is something which the UK could benefit massively from at the minute, and it's the ecology of fear. Yes, the bear will most likely kill 1 or 2 deer. Bears aren't the best at hunting, but they will. But what they'll do is the bear's very presence will just keep the deer on their toes and keep them moving. This allows for overgrazed land to regenerate, allowing for natural succession to take place, which creates seemingly infinite opportunities for all walks of life. This process is otherwise known as a trophic cascade, a top-down effect initiated by apex predators. And given the bear's varied diet, they're also responsible for dispersing lots of seeds from all the plants that they eat. And as they dispense them, as they walk around, a little bit of organic fertilizer goes with them. And a foraging bear as well, with all that digging and that disturbance, they will be releasing the soils, they'll be releasing nutrients, they'll be creating new opportunities for new vegetation. But my mind is always blown when I think about the subtleties and the complexities that is the trophic cascade. You know, all of those effects that a bear has, the indirect and direct effects that an apex predator has upon the ecosystem. It just blows my mind, it's amazing. These effects of the brown bear are felt all across the world, from North America to Eurasia. Some populations may be fragmented, but the bear is not endangered. In recent human history, bears haven't had a good time of it. In the UK, it's thought that the bear went extinct around 1,000 years ago, and they declined across much of Europe over the past 500 years, as habitat was converted and they were hunted. However, over the past 50 years, they have been making a comeback. The total number of bears in Europe now is at around 14,000, spread across 10 fragmented habitats. And like most creatures, the brown bear tries to avoid people at all costs, but its curiosity and search for food often brings it close to roads, farms, and built up areas. Romania has the largest population of bears in Europe at around 6,000. The population is said to have risen since the ban of trophy hunting in 2016. There is much speculation on the bear's exact population between groups, with conservationists saying it's as low as 2,000 and hunters saying it's closer to 10,000. Whatever the exact number, there have been some rather serious problems arising in Romania. Road collisions have been rising, livestock have been killed, and so too have people, along with many more non-fatal attacks also being recorded. And since the ban of trophy killing, the government have allowed killing of the bears to try and get a handle on the populations. It seems a bit contradictory, this approach, but I think they have to be seen to be doing something. In 2020 alone, 2 people died and over 50 people were injured. With this case in Romania, conservationists argue that illegal logging is driving the bears to have more frequent encounters within inhabited areas. These cases from Romania are extreme and differ to other areas of Europe where bears are less frequent. But I think one of the main takeaways here is to just understand that the bear needs to have enough suitable habitat with enough prey and enough food within that habitat to prevent that crossover into built up areas. And when I think about the UK, you know, like given our high population density, is there anywhere in Britain that could sustain a population of wild bears? Well, at the minute, one place immediately that springs to mind is the Cairngorms National Park in Scotland. Remote mountain ranges, which is about as close as you can get to true wilderness here in the UK. The number of bears required to sustain a healthy population also needs to be considered, because what would be the point in releasing the bears if they just go extinct again? Well, actually, there might be some value in doing just that. So on this roadmap of rewilding Britain, we are still relatively near the start, you know, we're only just beginning to warm round to the idea of apex predators like the lynx being reintroduced. A small and inconspicuous animal that would only present a small headache to livestock farmers. A bear, on the other hand, well, is not only a threat to farmers, but given its curious nature and its sheer size, it makes it a real threat to people too. Look, I think unfortunately as a nation, as people, we're just not ready to have a wild bear reintroduction. But going back to the idea of having a small number of female bears introduced to a enclosed area, a large enclosed area, I feel like that could be a step towards a full reintroduction. And after all, like us Brits, we are quite hesitant. I don't feel as though that our fear of carnivores, wild natural predators, has changed all that much from when we made them go extinct. If anything, it's probably worse today than it was back then. As a nation, we need to be convinced. The closest you'll get to a wild bear in the UK at the minute is an enclosure within a woodland in Bristol. Appropriately named Bear Wood, this is a project run by the Wild Place where people can come and view the bear, the wolf, the lynx and the wolverine. It's a relatively small enclosure, but it's vitally important to allow people to experience and understand these creatures. One of the biggest advantages that we have as an island in the context of rewilding is that we can plan and we can prepare for reintroductions. Our natural landscapes are far from perfect, but if you release the lynx, the wolf, the bear, or even a few elephants this time tomorrow, I think the natural landscape would provide for them well enough to survive. But you know, obviously because of people that just can't happen. So I think instead what we should be doing in the meantime is we should be bolstering up our national parks, our woodlands and our agricultural land to be as wild and as natural as they can be. Because in the context of a bear conflicting with people, we need to ensure that our natural spaces are as bear friendly as they can be, with enough habitat and enough food in them so that conflict is minimized. The bears stay within those natural areas and they venture less into the built up areas. And you know, this will be the same for the wolf too. We can get started on doing this work right now. And you know, perhaps maybe in the future that might just be the way that we do it. We might just have large enclosures where animals live, really big large enclosures. Perhaps. Let me know your thoughts on the bear in the UK, or maybe you live somewhere where you're in the vicinity of the bear already. I'd love to know your thoughts. Let's continue this conversation down in the comments. But as always, thanks for watching. Leave curious. Everything's getting soaked. This is not going to do the camera any good. Oh, you can also check out my vlog channel, by the way.